Hello, it's Lee. Well, I wanted to make this video as sort of a follow-up, so to speak, to my video on shadow people and sleep paralysis. I felt there was a good need to add a few things in for some people, maybe to clarify a few things. First of all, for the things that I was talking about in that specific video, I was mostly talking about just that when you are finding yourself imposed upon by negative feeling, by negative force. Essentially what that is of course a deliberate will from another source other than yourself going on you. Now, I'm going to have to make a big distinction between what is actually a bad dream or a nightmare and what this phenomenon is, because a lot of people are seeming to think that it's just some sort of extra strength bad dream or something like that, creating this fear. Well, what's happening and what is the distinction is that in these attacks, and they are that, it's not just some hidden fear or some maybe somewhat realized fear that you have of something, and then it's becoming actualized in the form of you actually feeling an evil presence on you and feeling actually weighted down and you can't move. Now, I know that there's a lot of information out there, both good and bad, false and true, all in between. An example I wish to make, or a point I wish to make, is that if you're going to find the answer to this sort of thing, and by waving it off and saying, "Oh, it's just that," well, I'm afraid that that's not going to be accurate enough, as opposed to some people that have been experiencing it for very many years. Now, even as I would not dare try and teach a physicist or a scientist about their own particular school of discipline or whatnot, neither should those gentlemen or ladies try to assume that they should teach or correct the insights and the experiences of spiritual persons and mystics who have actually dealt with this for a very long time in a variety of ways. Now, in case you didn't see the whole 22 point whatever minutes of my video, Shadow People Sleep Paralysis, I'm going to make the distinction of experiencing these entities crossing over into the waking world. As awake as you are right now, watching this video on your computer screen or whatnot, that's what I'm talking about. It first starts off for me, and for many people, it started off in just a state of feeling fear in a dream. But then upon waking, and something is still there, the feeling is still there, the oppressive feeling, and yet now you also have a visual of something, and you see your attacker. This is a whole different and important point. The validity of experiencing this in the waking world, and it not just being a bad dream or some self-imposed nightmarish type of thing leading to a sleep paralysis. Okay, so this is the very, very clear distinction to make. So that all said, what I wish to stress is the ways in which the reason why it's happening, and I wish to further elaborate on what you can do about it to defend yourself, and even more to go on the offensive against those that would try and wish you harm. Now, even as there are good and bad people in a body and out of a body, in the physical world and in the non-physical world, there are the bad sorts, right? So you'll see a negative person, a bad, self-destructive person, just causing destruction on other people. Anyone who wishes harm on someone else is first and foremost self-destructive. They feel unworthy, they feel hate, they feel sad, and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't think that they're loved, so they want to take it out on others. So whether someone in the body is doing that, or whether a spiritual force, an entity, an individual, a person is doing that, that's for the same reason. Now, why it's happening is simple. In this stage on the earth, we're in 2012, and in this stage on the earth, the date of December or 21st or 2012 itself doesn't even have to signify that much. I think it's a rough estimate, pinpoint in time, that big things are happening. They certainly are. Whether or not people even talked about 2012 being significant or not, let's just say there was no knowledge of that number and this date, this year. Whether or not that was true, people are still feeling something's about to happen. Well, I can share with you the truth that the spiritual war is very much on. And it is simply like this. Free will, what are people choosing? You're going to align yourself with the light, or you're going to stay in this mode of self-destruction. And continuing these things either until getting out of this sort of living condition, or repeating it until you finally get it. So that's all it is. Now, there are very many souls right now that are extremely sensitive to what we call the other side, the spirit world. Now, I always say the spiritual world is the first side, it's the prime one, and the physical condition, these bodies, human life conditioning, is secondary or even third or worse. Well, not worse, but down the line. So, since the spiritual war is on very much, well, when people are sensitive and open to the other side, those entities who are on the other side, the good ones and the bad ones, and those who are neutral, are attracted to your sensitivity and to my sensitivity to it. So they're going to want to try and make a communication, an action, a discussion, something, some type of interplay. Now, it doesn't happen to just people that are following mysticism or deliberately looking into something, but it's happening to spiritually sensitive people looking for it or not. It more so happens to people that are actually deliberately getting into it, having experiences. Some people are deliberately trying to have an outer body experience. Some people are deliberately looking for God and trying to link with the light and heavenly wisdom and trying to find out, what am I doing here? Where is this going? People scratching their heads wondering, well, when you're sensitive and open, you're born that way. Because your soul has had that ability to carry it over into the physical world because it's awake, that state, and wants to engage it somehow. A natural talent. Mostly people want to engage it, even when they say no and they're afraid of it, it's just the fear and the confusion. But really, I think that it's wanted to be experienced, otherwise why would it happen? So, well then, why it's happening is to frighten people to look away from the light, or to think that going to the other side is a scary thing, don't even bother. You see, a lot of the dark forces that are on the planet right now, as it's said by St. Peter, that the devil in those last days will run around roaring like a lion, seeking to devour any he can, like a kamikaze mission. Well, even as false churches and false religions have taken away mysticism, they said, believe in that, don't you dare try and link to the other side, don't you dare try this and that, it's all demonic, it's all evil. The ones that told you and I that, that's fear-based and it's deliberate, because they don't want people to link with the other side. A lot of people that tell you, oh, that's all hogwash and mumbo-jumbo, they say that, but they know that it's true. They just don't want you or I to link with the other side. So a lot of times, when people are sensitive to the other side, there's a demonic attack right there to stop you from it, because the dark forces see your potential and my potential. When we can actually defeat these dark forces, then we gain the next step up, which is mastery over them, because light is stronger than dark. It really is at its heart center, but people have to choose it. On this earth, the darkness is very strong because the forces of influence are very strong. When they want to convince and control you and I since we're children, and tell us very, very powerful, blatant lies when we are young children, we believe it. The kid believes what the adult says in school, in the household. So when we enter, and you're coming back full circle to the beginning of my talk, when we enter this arena, as soon as we're told, oh, sleep paralysis, what is it? Then you have someone saying, oh, it's just a nightmare, it's just a psychological condition, it's just this and that. No, that is hogwash. That is a deliberate lie, or that is based on fear and no experience. Most people saying that are not experienced enough into the mysticism, into the spiritual world. Now, it's happening because they don't want you to excel in light. If you are dealing with it, I know it's very frightening at first. I beat it after some good time of struggling with it, and they tested and fought me for many years And now I can comfortably say, as long as I am linked to the light, there's nothing they can do. And it is a choice I made. It's happening to me. I'm going to the light. The light is empowering me. The light is me. I defeat all darkness. You can do the exact same thing. But God can't choose for you. When we say, God help, and ask for help, okay, you want my help? There you go, you have it. Simple as that. So it's happening for that reason, spiritual war. What you can do deliberately now, I'll get onto this part, to help yourself with it. If it's happening to you, I'll make a distinction too and say, and even suggest that even when you're a small kid, a lot of nightmares even start from these things. But as far as being consciously aware of it being an evil oppression as a outside source, usually it happens later on, maybe late teenage years or early 20s. Usually around 18, 19, 20, 21. That seems to be, from what I've understood and looked at, the most common age that it happens. Usually. But we can say nightmares starting younger can even be that. And that's a whole other topic I can get into, and I'll share my experiences on that maybe some other time. But I'm saying it deliberately understood. This is an evil force oppressing me, weighing me down, paralyzing me, trying to make me scared. The entity is evil. It knows it, and it wants me to know that it is that. It wants you to know that it is that. But defeating it gives you all mastery. Because once you have done it even once, you can do it anytime. I'll share with you that after the first few times I started to beat them, the next times after that, so much more easier. And increasing your knowledge of it gives you all that much more access to defeating them, all that much more easy. So, if it is happening to you, and it's happening to so many people, and I think it always has been happening, and now it's just really much in the public view, in the public arena. At least on YouTube and other areas, we can share these sorts of things. Now, if it's happening to you, I can suggest a few things. They've worked for me, and they have worked for some others. It doesn't mean they're going to work for you necessarily by default. I think that your belief in them has a lot to do with it. Ultimately, it's belief in yourself, that you have power with your highest self, which is linked with God naturally, by default. So, what you can do if it's happening to you are a few things. You need to sanctify your space. You need to make certain signs and symbols, so to speak, so that the dark entities know you are not going to accept it, and you don't like it, and more so, you are going to say no and fight them back. Signs and symbols, I simply mean visible, tangible, smellable, use that word, even audio, whatever, something that they can, a sensory perception of some kind or the other. You don't have to have a body for sensory perception, that they will see and notice, recognize that you are warding and warning against them. Stop, you're not doing it. So what you can do, and I can suggest these that worked for me. I found that praying, if you want to use that word, asking, requesting, is all the same thing, for assistance from the light, from the God that is in you, and yourself asking the God that you are in. That is a simultaneous thing. We are in God and God is in us. Now, asking and requesting, praying for that help does a lot of good. I found also that lighting white candles helped. White to signify purity, a clean color, and putting certain incenses and scents, because believe it or not, there are a lot more spirits active going around, and multi-dimensional, interdimensional, or just simply different dimensional entities at all times, all around. And they see us, they smell us, they hear us, all that stuff. So what we can do is create notifications for them that I am attracting in good and I am repulsing bad. I found very much that traditional white sage works very well. Anything that's traditionally known to be helpful as a smudge or a cleaning agent, a cleansing agent, sweetgrass and various different incenses can work very good. You see, here's a funny example. If you can think of Oscar the Grouch from Sesame Street, how he likes nasty and ugly things and bad smells and yucky food. Remember, he's always saying that those are good and the nice things are bad. Well, picture that the bad entities are sort of immature like that, and they like nasty things. So when you're putting nice scents and nice colors and nice art, even artwork and different things in your room, in your space, in your house, wherever you may be, you're on your dorm, in your campus, or whatever the case may be. If you're creating positivity and nice things, they are going to see it, smell it, hear it, etc., etc. Yeah, nice music, good atmosphere, good ambience. When the good entities see that, they're going to go, oh, lovely, and they can also be attracted to that. And if they see dark forces, they can and will, if they want. Different ones send them off. But also, again, we have free will. Now, the dark forces, when they see, smell, hear all these things, they're going to be repulsed by it. They don't like harmony. They're trying to justify their own inner rage because they're in a premature state of their own growth process. Keep in mind, these dark entities that are bothering you and I are individual conscious soul entities, whether they be in a form of what we think are called the demonic, looking ugly, terrible, horned creatures, wings, teeth, whatever. Different aspects we can take on for appearances. So if they're doing that, they're trying to justify their self-hatred. If they are in a simple form looking like a human, they can even return to their body and go about their daily activity in the morning, because some of them have a body they go to. I have an enemy that was like that. We had sort of a shamanic war. I beat him in the astral world. So knowing that there is existence in both places, that's fine. So crazy as all this stuff sounds, it's only, and I shouldn't even use that word to justify them, but crazy because we're told since kids such and such is wrong and false, because the dark forces want you to think it's crazy and insane, and it's just a dream, just a condition, because those scientists and teachers have no idea about the spirit world. They don't enter it, they don't go to it. It's like Christ saying to the Pharisees, and no offense to them, their opinions are needed and their works are good in so many cases. Everybody in their own school and their own disciplines. We all make the whole big package together. But those people can't tell you and I that these things are false, because they're simply not. And if I've experienced these things for well over 10 years, a person that didn't experience it and is just studying it doesn't have an authority to me. Their words are fallic fluff, they mean nothing, they're chaff in the wind. So that's to take into consideration. So yes, like Christ saying to the Pharisees, you yourselves do not enter, and nor do you let anyone else enter, because you're speaking falsity, deliberately or not. But a lot of times deliberately. So, I hope that what I've said helps at all. I just sort of wanted to further elaborate on my first video. I want people to not be afraid. There's not much to be afraid of once you understand it, once you have overcome it truly, and not just overcome it by ignoring it. And if that's what you need to do, okay, fine. But I'm saying to really know it and to really overcome it. And not to brag, but in my position and in the position of many people, to really overcome it by entering into the mystic and seeing it for what it is. And just like, oh. And it leads to a cessation of fear, because it leads to realizing love and light is stronger, and it leads to pitying these types of entities. What a sad position that you guys are in, to be that full of hate and to bother people. Maybe it's their job though. Maybe God is allowing these sort of things to happen so people can become self-empowered in the light. I'm wondering that indeed. So, just some extra words. Again, if anyone has any questions or wants to share their own stories, yeah, write them down. If you want to give me a private message, that's fine. I'm always available for advice. I'm able to give at least the little I know, try and share the little I know. Always happy to help, and I can only wish people the best. Don't just take my word for things, go into it. If you're willing and able and you want to see what it really is, you can. Take the opinions and advice from very many and weigh them out and see where it might be. And ask yourself if you want to really know what it is or not. Okay? I know it's scary at first, these sort of things, but that's just fear of the unknown. That's all it really is. They want to make their fear your fear. But you don't have to. Say no. I got tired of it, and now I don't want their fear to be mine. You can do it too. Alright? Cheers and namaste. Wish everybody the best in 2012. I got more vids to come this year and on. So, blessed be. Amen. And catch you on the flip side.